We like to believe that science is a light that guides humanity, but history tells a darker story. In the pursuit of knowledge, some have crossed lines that should never be crossed. They turned hospitals into prisons and patients into subjects. Today, we step into the forbidden archives of history to uncover 5 of the most terrifying human experiments ever conducted. Welcome to Dark Trace. Let's begin. Story 1. The Russian Sleep Experiment. In the late 1940s, Soviet researchers allegedly kept 5 political prisoners awake for 15 days, using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were sealed in a chamber with enough food and water to last a month. At first, they were calm, but by the 9th day, the screaming began. They weren't screaming in pain, they were screaming in madness. When the chamber was finally opened, what the soldiers found wasn't human anymore. They had mutilated themselves, refusing to sleep, begging for the gas to be turned back on. Whether legend or reality, the concept of the sleep experiment remains one of history's most haunting nightmares. Story 2. Unit 731, the Butcher of the East. Deep in the frozen plains of Manchuria, the Japanese Imperial Army established a secret facility known as Unit 731. Under the command of General Shiro Ishii, thousands of men, women, and children were subjected to horrors that defy description. They were referred to not as humans, but as Maruta, or logs. Scientists tested biological weapons, frostbite limits, and even performed vivisections without anesthesia. The most shocking part? Many of the scientists involved were never prosecuted. They were granted immunity by the United States after the war in exchange for their lethal research data. Story 3. Project MK-Ultra, the Mind Control Quest. At the height of the Cold War, the CIA launched a top-secret program to master the human mind, Project MK-Ultra. For over 20 years, the government used unwitting citizens, students, prisoners, and hospital patients as human guinea pigs. They used high doses of chemicals, sensory deprivation, and hypnosis to see if they could break a human soul and rebuild it into a programmable assassin. The records were ordered to be destroyed in 1973, but the survivors' stories still echo today, a chilling reminder of how far a government will go for total control. Story 4. The Monster Study, Destroying Innocence. In 1939, at the University of Iowa, a psychological experiment was conducted on 22 innocent orphans. They were divided into 2 groups. One group received positive speech therapy, being praised for their speech. The other group received negative therapy. They were belittled, mocked, and told they were stutters, even though they spoke perfectly fine. The negative group developed permanent psychological trauma and speech impediments that lasted their entire lives. It became known as the Monster Study because even the researchers were horrified by the damage they had done to children who had no one to protect them. Story 5. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study, The Great Betrayal. For 40 years, between 1932 and 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted a study on 600 African American men in Alabama. They were told they were being treated for bad blood. In reality, the doctors were watching them die. Even after a cure, penicillin, was discovered in the 1940s, it was intentionally withheld from the subjects. The scientists wanted to see the natural progression of the disease until death. It was a cold-blooded betrayal of medical ethics that shattered the trust of an entire generation. As we look back at these dark traces of our past, one question remains. Does the end ever justify the means? Or are there some secrets that should have stayed buried? Tell us what you think in the comments below. If you want to follow the trace through more of history's mysteries, subscribe and hit the bell icon. This is Dark Trace. Stay vigilant.